Alright, and I'm live. Now let's find myself. I jumped the gun too much there. Hello, hello, and welcome, if you are here. Pretty crazy if you're here. That is fast. I am unfortunately still unsuccessful in finding myself. Dang it, I was so lucky last time. Feels bad. Got it. Hey, I wonder if that works every time. Hello, Michael. Hello, Aspen. Hello, Chelsea. Hello, Kelly. I graded more than half of the submissions for the free response that have been put in so far. Some people did really well. Some people did not so well. Kind of depends. But yeah, overall, people are answering questions pretty intelligently, even if they were getting questions wrong. So that was kind of cool. I was happy overall. I think I did not so well. I don't think I've graded yours yet, Aspen. Did I not? Yes, I have not graded yours, mostly because you have not submitted it, I believe. Or you submitted it after I was grading. It's probably that one. Yes, it is that one. Hello, Jonathan. Why are you here? Don't you have a Cruise It stream to watch or something? Yeah. I graded for a little over an hour, and then I played some video games to reset my brain, and then I worked on for half an hour on creating this set of practice, and now we're streaming. Hooray! Hello, all the people who have showed up recently: Matthew, Rose, Bryn, Daikun. I will try to have your stuff graded by Saturday. Is probably my deadline for this stuff, because then I get a whole cocktail of new free response answers on Friday. Or on Saturday, rather, from the people who show up to the mock exam. So, 2 mock exams a week from today. During this time, we will have one of our mock exams. So it'd actually be really similar to one of these streams, except I won't be streaming, and I'll instead be administering a test section. So it's exactly the same time frame. But yeah, just on Wednesday. It will start at probably 2:05 and go to 2:50. It'll be a 45-minute test frame. And I'm going to... I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to be giving you. It kind of depends on whether or not they give me more material, but probably I'll be giving you 3 free response questions from a recent mock test in 45 minutes instead of the exact same format. The assignment is due tomorrow, so yeah. The Zoom for Cruiser today is only for retakes. Huh. She's doing retakes. Wow. Or something. Oh. Okay. That was interesting. Huh. Can't be used right now. Wonder what's up with that. Gosh, I hope my RAM isn't full again. So yeah, sorry. The other mock exam is what day? It's the Saturday. So the 2nd and the 6th are the two opportunities to get a mock exam, which is another opportunity to raise your grade beyond the 50% before, 50% after idea. So yeah, it's a quiz section. Oh, yeah. Makes sense. I should call Kruzich and ask her how things go with that, because I was curious about that. Worried about the invasiveness of something like that. And I'm curious how it works for her. Again, this question here is what you're supposed to be working on. And please tell me if you're done. Will the mock exam be graded by participation? Yes, it will be graded by participation. That'd be kind of brutal to grade you for not participation on a mock exam. Yeah, maybe other folks do that, but that seems a little arcane to me. I don't want to penalize you for trying. Welcome, Keith. People are working on this question, except for the few sophomores that have finished it. We'll see if I can make fewer mistakes. I did get more sleep. I've kept my alarm clock at 8:45 for some reason because I've been too lazy to change it. But I've been snoozing it and then going to sleep until like 10:30. But I'm falling asleep at like 2, so my schedule's fixed. Feels good. Fixed-ish. Hello, Isaiah. Welcome. This is a practice stream, so no homework is assigned, and the homework is not due, and I'm not going over the homework. But I did grade a whole bunch of people's homework. So if you're in first to third period and your name's not Aspen, and you submitted it, then I have graded yours. I haven't done fourth period yet, because, man, they take some time to grade. It is not a simple experience. Wow, I never stay up past 10. Yeah. I'm happy when I can fall asleep before 2. That's pretty exciting. I've stopped playing video games after 1 a.m., so that's a good decision. Step in the right direction. Waiting for a handful more duns to sneak in here, and then we'll start mobbing these. Up to 6 duns. People saying done. This has only been posted for 8 minutes. If you're done with this, good on you. 15-minute question in 8 minutes is a definite feels good. Yeah. I'm going to talk a little bit about the FRQ. So if you haven't done them yet, I'm going to give you some hintaroonies. They're not like how to do questions, but they're like, there's some pretty consistent trends in what people are doing wrong on them. And so it'd probably be worth discussing that. You gave up after 7 minutes? Aww. Sad panda. Is my screen sketch not working? No, it's working. That was really weird. Wonder why it wasn't working before. I watched the Sad Band episode and thought of you. Yeah, if the admins watched that episode, they'd probably be less happy with me saying that. Although I mean it innocently. It's the connotation in that episode is not the most school friendly, say. Uh, I watched a lot of South Park in college, so it shaped my formative mind. All right, that is our 8th done. Let's start taking a peek at these. Find all the values for of x for which the graph of h has a horizontal tangent. Well, that's where the top is 0. So, where does x squared minus 2 equal 0? Well, that's at root 2 and negative root 2. And then all we have to do is figure out which one's a minimum, which one's a maximum, or whatever, that sort of stuff. So we can do the test on either side thing, the first derivative test. If you plug 0 in, you get... Oh, yeah, you can't plug in 0, so we got to try something like 0.1 and negative 0.1, because 0 is a moment of disaster for this function. So I actually have to test more stuff. If I plug 0.1 in, I get a negative on top divided by 0.1. That's negative. If I plug in negative 0.1, I get a negative on top divided by a negative. That's positive. So while it changes at that point doesn't exist in our function. All right, if I plug in 2, I get 4 minus 2 over 2. That's 1, so that's positive. If I plug in negative 2, I get 4 minus 2 over negative 2, which is negative 1, which is negative. And yeah, negative 1 works. I don't know why I use negative 0.1. It doesn't matter which one you use. To me, since all I care about is negative or positive, it's easy enough to plug in either. But yeah, the moral of the story is negative 2 is a minimum, or negative root 2 is a minimum, root 2 is a maximum by this logic. So min, so relative or local, I guess, since that's how they call it in the problem. Local min and local max. Boom. On what intervals is it concave up? So for this, we are going to have to take a derivative of that nonsense x squared minus 2 over x. So there's a few different ways we can do this. One way is to divide by x initially, like so. This is how I would probably do it. The other way is to do quotient rule. They're both fine. 1 plus, well, I shouldn't jump the gun with the plus. 1 minus 2x to the negative 2 over negative 2. And the reason I said plus is because it's just 1 plus 1 over x squared. Because the negative 2 divided by negative 2 cancel. And then on what intervals is it concave up? Well, 1 plus 1 over x squared is always, always, always positive. Now, the only spot where it's not is at 0, but the function is divine for everything but 0, so it's concave up everywhere except where it doesn't exist. So I would just say concave up for x is not equal to 0. And that's it. For the AP test, the calculator should be in radians. Yes, 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 yes. A few people I noticed on the homework got answers that were wrong even though all their work was right, and I assume that was the issue, is degrees radians. So make sure you get that right, because that is free points. All right. Write the equation line for the tangent to the graph at x equals 4. Well, if we're trying to write a tangent line, we can use the derivative to find the slope. So 16 minus 2 over 4 is 3.5, 14 over 4. And then we just do 4 and negative 3 is the point, so y plus 3 equals 3.5 times x minus 4. Good old point slope form. And chillin'. Last one. Does the tangent line for the graph of h lie above or below the graph of h for x is greater than 4? Now, this one actually pretty easy, because in B, we figured out the graph is concave up on both sides. I have no clue if it looks like this. I actually don't really care if it looks like this. It could look something like this. I don't know. The point is, it's concave up everywhere. And anywhere you have a concave up curve, tangent lines under approximate the curve. It doesn't matter what part of the curve you're doing. If you draw a concave up graph, your tangent line goes under the curve everywhere, unless you draw a crappy secant line like the one I drew there. But yeah, that's the basic idea. All tangent lines in concave up graphs are under the curve, and you can prove that by drawing pictures. So it's that easy. So so it's below the graph. For A, is 0 still considered a root? No, it's a discontinuity. So it's some place where the interval's split up, but it's not actually a horizontal tangent. So 0 is not an answer to this part. 0 is just something we have to consider because the slope can change at that point, and so we actually need to know what it is on either side of 0 to know whether or not we're increasing or decreasing, whether or not we change our derivative as we go across our other points. The second derivative can never be negative. Yes. The second derivative, Josh, was 1 plus 1 over x squared. That's always positive, except for when x equals 0 and it's undefined, but they cleared that up for us in the problem and said x isn't 0. So it's always concave up. Cool. One down. FRQ Machines Part 2. Boom. Second question. This is a little bit more recent knowledge. This question's actually pretty similar to one we did in class at one point. So give this the old try. When they ask for tangent line, do we have to put our answer in point slope form? No. You can put your answer in slope intercept. If you look on their answer keys, they often put it in slope intercept. Sometimes they ask for the y equals equation, so my answer wouldn't have even been good enough for a y equals because you would have had to subtract 3 from both sides to get the final answer. But yeah, they don't care what form it's in for points for a line equation. Point slope's usually the easier one to put it in, so I usually roll with that. Answer keys have both, always, from what I've seen. So yeah, this one should be much more recent stuff, like Chapter 6 stuff. I guess A is Chapter 2, but it's like the really hard part of Chapter 2. I got an email from a calc student during the stream. Interesting. Is this person in my stream? No. Whoa, that's crazy. Wait a second. Huh. Whoa, whoa. Oh. Just turned in homework from last class. Oh, nice. Yeah, yeah. Then you missed having it graded by a little bit. Graded today right now. I might grade more tonight. I'll talk a little more about those, but it takes me about 5 minutes to grade each one of them, so that means I can do about 12 an hour, which means if 60 kids do their homework, it takes me about 5 hours to grade, which is a little soul-crushing. That's a lot of time for grading homework. So if it takes a little time, you know why. And if you're wondering why it takes so long, it would be way faster if it was pen and paper in person. But loading all the documents, each document takes probably 15 seconds to load. And put in a new tab, and then I have to click on things and that sort of stuff. So it's a little bit tricky. Yeah, Vinny, it'll probably be put in today or tomorrow or the next day. But by Saturday, my goal is by the mock tests on Saturday to have all of these done. At least all the ones that were turned in on time. So, yeah, we'll see. Ooh, the first stun snuck in there. Who is Agril again? It's dang it. I can picture your face, but I cannot attach a name to it. But anyways, you just missed a FRQ. We're on our second FRQ. So, I don't know, generally some talk about when mock tests are, that sort of thing. Since I was kind of deciding last stream, if you were here at the end, people gave me some input. I asked for weekend or weekday. There was a little bit more weekday interest, but there was interest for both for sure. And so we're probably going to do both. So Saturday at 1 p.m. and next Wednesday during this time is when we'll have those mocks. Whoa, that's a lot of duns. Holy smokers. That's 9. So does this update my participants? Yeah, the participants tab in this is so confusing. I can't see who's actually here. I can only see who has commented recently. All right. Let's see how people did. So for A, and I think A is actually harder than B on this question. If you separate wait, no, we're not separating variables. We're finding the second derivative. Yikes. Well, the second derivative, you just take the derivative of the right and you get d squared y dx squared, because that's the derivative of dy dx. But that's on the left, rather. On the right, we have to do the product rule on this garbage. And so we get 2y dy dx for the derivative of the first times 6 minus 2x plus y squared times negative 2. And so that's product rule stuff. But then I actually have to plug in dy dx, which is this y squared times 6 minus 2x. So this is dy dx, and I just replaced it with what dy dx is. And so I actually get this for d squared y dx squared. So now I just have to plug in 3 and 1/4. 3 for x, 1/4 for y. And I get, what, 1/2 times 1/4 squared times, 0 times 0, minus 2 times y, which is 1/4 squared. So that got easier because that's 0. Sorry, Nick. There were like 11 duns. That's usually my proxy because not everybody comments. My apologies. So I got negative 1/8 for my second derivative there. And that is what the answer key got too, so dope. Did the old check. Daikun was trying to fake me out on that one. All right, second part of it. So that's the first part where we go the derivative direction. And it was actually pretty hard because we had to do the substitution, we had to do product rule, we had to do some implicit. That was a pretty tough A. Okay, for B, we actually separate variables here. So dy over y squared equals 6 minus 2x dx. That's moving the dx to the other side, moving the y squared to the other side. I'm going to rewrite this before integrating as y to the negative 2 dy. Now I'm going to integrate y to the negative 1 over negative 1 equals 6x minus x squared plus c. I'm going to, what should I do? I should probably solve for y. So I'm going to multiply by negative 1 on both sides, which means I get x squared minus 6x plus a different c. I just changed all the signs and didn't bother with minus c, just made it a new plus c. And then I do 1 over both sides to get y. So y is 1 over x squared minus 6x plus c. Oh, that's fine, Nick. Don't worry about it. Okay, so now we get 1/4, or we plug in 1/4 for y and 3 for x to solve for c. 1/4 equals 1 over, oh, that's nice, 9 minus 18 plus c. So all I need is for the bottom, 9 minus 18 plus c to equal 4, because the tops are the same. And so that's negative 9 plus c equals 4, so 13 equals c. And we're chilling. We've done did it. Y equals 1 over x squared minus 6x plus 13. Wowzer. Did people have some reasonable success on this one? Or not so much, or kind of? Or because this is the end of our legit free responses. My next one is a free response I wrote based on my feels after I graded all those free responses. Good, pretty good. Ooh, 100%er. Groovy. Thanks, Shaggy. Here's FRQ3. So I wrote this one. I stole a graph from AP. And then I wrote a set of questions that I wanted you to answer. So the three equations are: what is the net change in velocity over the 18-second interval? So what's the difference between the velocity at the beginning and end? That's net change. What is the average velocity on intervals 0 to 6? Dang it, I wanted averaged. That's not correct. Let's make an edit here. Acceleration on the interval 0 to 6. And then lastly, if the car has a velocity at a certain time, find the velocity at other times. How does the AP test write? I mean, the way you wrote it is totally fine, Dakun. How would they write that? Exactly like I wrote it, 1 over x squared plus 6x plus 13. I don't know if, Daikun, you saw the thing, but how they do inputs in AP Classroom is not how they're actually going to do it on the AP test. That's what they said. So my guess is that they're going to have an equation editor. So you're actually going to be able to type in equations on the AP tests. Maybe that's wrong, and maybe you're just going to be uploading documents, but we'll see. We're getting pretty close to when they said they'd tell us, I think. It was like the 3rd of May when they tell us what it was going to look like. But yeah. Let me know when you're finished with this. This should be a shorter free response question because there's not quite as much going on, but lots of hand math here. Yeah, 2 would have been really hard to do, just FYI. Like, really hard. So it's good I switched it to acceleration. So Johnny, you've gotten things right since the algebra review unit. That's wrong. It's kind of weird without Kosar here. Usually he's making sarcastic comments, and we don't even have his sub Jonah here, because Jonah puts in all the like ridiculous comments. If Kosar's slacking. So yeah, interestingly enough, this kind of question was the one people did worst on the homework, which was a pretty good set of three related, or not related rates, but like kind of rate style questions, lots of rates in them. And I was pretty happy with how well people did on the rate questions, but less on the picture-y version of the rate questions. People did worse on that one. It's true, Kelly, but he shows up to a lot of live streams, so you can say goodbye to him, just not in person. Actually lifted this question from an AP test, the picture, because I'm too lazy to make these pictures, but then I changed all the questions. So that's what this question is. Would I let you back into my classroom next year? Yes. Yeah. I don't mind if people say hello. Like, who came back this year? Corinne. I saw, what was his name? Crud. So many names falling out of my hand. Cameron McLean came back. Grant Neighbor came back. Just a handful of people. Yeah, Johnny Diaz. Yes, I definitely seen a fair amount of Johnny Diaz over the years. He's a nice guy. Andrew Chappelle, definitely. I actually came during winter break and ran into Andrew again during that time. Probably go over this in a minute or so. I was actually grading the free responses outside of a few people who didn't write things for a lot of questions. I was actually really happy with how people were answering questions. There were a lot of smart answers to questions, uh, and so that was pretty good. Like even people who were getting questions wrong, they were getting questions wrong because they were not using enough decimals for bounds, or they were not using enough decimals for their final answer, or like other like really small, easily fixable things. And so, really happy with how many people have like engaged enough to stay fresh during break. It was actually pretty good grading a lot of people's um, assignments there because people did pretty well. All right, let's start taking a peek at these. What is the net change in velocity over the 18-second interval? Well, I got to find a whole bunch of areas. Anything velocity related, I got to find the area. So this area is 30 because it's 15 tall. This is 15 by 4, but it's a triangle, so it's 1/2 15 times 4, so it's also 30. Which means this is 30, but like a negative 30 because it's a negative part of the graph. This part is 4 long and 15 tall, so it's 60, but like a negative 60. And this last part is 2 by 15, so it's negative 15. And this part is 2 by 15, so it's positive 15. So those are all my velocity area pieces. And so I'm going up 75 over the interval and down 75 plus 30, 105. So we end up negative 30 feet per second in net change. Because it's the 75 positive minus the 105 negative velocity. Okay, what is the average acceleration over the interval 0 to 6? Well, y2 minus y1 would be 60 minus 0 if we call the velocity 0 at 0. The point is the change is 60 in the velocity, and if we divide that by the width, we get 10. So 10 is the average acceleration on the interval 0 to 6. Integral divided by width is how you find average acceleration. In this case, you could have also, because it's not a curve, found the average acceleration by finding the average height another way. But area divided by width is the way I would do it. I think that's the easiest. If the car has a velocity of 16 feet per second, so we actually know a velocity at a point. We know at this point it's 16 feet per second, right here. Find the velocity at t equals 16. Well, if we start at 16 and lose 60 velocity and then lose another 15, this answer is 16 minus 75. So it's negative 59 feet per second for that velocity. And then find the velocity at t equals 0. Well, if we went down 30 and ended up at 16, we're at 46 here. And then if we went up 60 from 0 to 46, we started at negative 14. So negative 14 feet per second. So this car is spending a lot of time in reverse. And this is a very ridiculous example. Because going 59 feet per second in reverse is really, really fast and really dangerous. Holy smokes. That is not a good plan. It's like 40 miles an hour or something? Don't do that. That's bad. Any questions on this one before we move on? I just wanted to do something kind of graphically with thinking about derivatives and integrals, mostly integrals in this case, because it was feedback I wanted to give for the homework. I'll hang out for a second, but if no questions or anything show up, I'll just move forward. Okay. Nothing showing up, so let's move. How did you know the units for velocity? If we're finding the integral, we're just multiplying feet per second squared by seconds. So feet per second squared times seconds, cancel, feet per second, boom. So yeah, it's reading from the graph. Because I was pretty lazy about it. Also, I guess it tells you the velocity is feet per second down here, so that's pretty cool. All right, yeah, so notes from my grading. I wrote these down just in case I forgot any of them. 3 decimal places is how you should answer your answers, unless they specifically say for part of the question. So on the first question on this assignment, if you haven't done it yet, A says round to the nearest whole number. B doesn't, but a lot of people rounded to the nearest whole number. So if you lost points on B, that's probably why. A lot of people got that right and got the right answer, but didn't answer it right because they rounded to the nearest whole number. The derivative of acceleration's jerk. It's not double acceleration. Anyways, if you want to prove a value is a maximum, you must test the endpoints. This isn't for relative maximum, but if it asks for like what was the hottest temperature over the interval, you can't just find a relative maximum. You have to actually either prove it goes down on both sides after, or around the maximum, or you need to test the endpoints. So a lot of you lost points because you didn't test endpoints. So anytime you're trying to prove something is the absolute highest or lowest point, test the endpoints and the critical points, not just the critical points. Because I believe the answer came from an endpoint in one of the questions. So a lot of people got that wrong. For intermediate values, this is specific for like when you have to figure out an interval on your calculator. A lot of people were writing like 1.09 to 1.31 or something like this for their bounds. That's not good enough. You need 1.300559 and 1.92467 or whatever, 5 or whatever. Put a lot more decimals here and you will be more accurate. So tons of people, I believe this was on the second free response, got one of the parts wrong because they didn't use enough decimals for these bounds and their answer was off by less than 1, but enough that it would be wrong. So just know that as like a really important trick to get things right, that you like. Seriously, everyone making these mistakes got all the process right. They just didn't get to the right answer at the end. Last piece. It takes me a while to grade these, so if everybody did this, it would take me something like 6 or 7 hours to grade. So if you're wondering why it hasn't been graded yet, that's the reason. If you want to make it easier for me to grade and make it faster, please, like a little shout out to Allison here from first period. I'm gonna spell your name wrong. Whatever. The point is, she puts up one document for all 3 questions. This speeds up my process. If you put up one document per question, you sped my process up some. If you're putting up individual documents for A, B, C, D, you're slowing me down, and yours takes like 10 minutes to grade. So that's specifically how you can speed up. Also, if you get things right, it's faster. So get things right. Just kidding. All right, and please let me know what you can see. I accidentally didn't have my feedback enabled, but I went back and fixed it all, I think. So let me know if it lets you see their explanations for things, because if it does, then my comments are fine, and if it doesn't, then my comments are lacking. So I'd love feedback by the Thursday stream or whatever. And yeah, due by tomorrow. So this is just some feedback because I spent about an hour grading earlier today on this stuff, and this is my take on it. All right, now I got some random questions for you. Here are some more practice questions. The first one is much easier than it looks. The second one is about as easy as it looks. Probably, I don't know. But yeah, give these a good old try. And yeah, the expectation is not that you had finished the AP questions already, but rather that those people that had finished them, I could give some insight to the people who haven't finished based on what they did, based on the mistakes they made or whatever. Do you get a calculator on these? I don't believe you need a calculator on either of these. Like, leaving answers unsimplified is fine. Just make sure you have the right things multiplied or whatever. And question 3 actually was a calculator question, so actually I'm reneging on that statement. You could use a calculator for 3, but or 29, whatever. Yeah, use a calculator. I don't care. Went full circle on that. Huh. Dang, while I've been playing video games, apparently Miss Ewan is making like a website with a whole bunch of stuff and getting articles written about her. All my teachers were always so mad at me for having no ambition. Oh well. Well, I have ambitions. They're just mostly video game related. Or cleaning my garage. That's also a pretty important thing on my list. Threw away probably 8 full garbage bags of my wife's stuff. Because when she moved, she didn't throw anything away. So there's just loads of garbage and old stuff in her boxes. Oh, Lord. I am not a hoarder. I am an anti-hoarder. I love throwing things away and not owning very much. So the pain is real. Because I married a hoarder. The good news is I love throwing things away, so it's really fun to clean the garage and throw things away. So much more space for activities. Yeah, Aspen, that's the same way my wife is. She feels bad throwing things away because it's like we could use that someday, and I asked her like, when would we ever use it? You haven't used it in 2 years. It's collecting dust in the garage. Never. Oh, okay. Garbage it is, or Goodwill for anything remotely keepable. But our Goodwill pile's not that large. Most of it was like pure garbage. Is 29 actually a calc question? Yes. Yes. It's a really easy calc question. Because there is actually an important part of that question that is calculus, but is really easy. It feels like a conversion problem because the two rates are uh, proportional directly. So, yeah. So yeah, I might as well just mob 29 and then give people a little more time. So for 29, the equation for a swimming pool, like volume of a swimming pool, is length times width times height. And length times width is 16 by 12. So 16 times 12 is 192. And so you take the derivative. And boom. 192 dHdt equals dVdt, and you plug in 0.9. So 192 times dHdt equals 0.9. So the volume or the height of the swimming pool is increasing by 0.9 over 192 meters per minute. So it is a calculator question, but it's kind of a conversion question, depending on how you look at it. I'm going to give a little more time for 3, the second question on here. Since I do have to wrap up by 3, but it shouldn't take me longer than, I don't know, 7 minutes to go over this. Gotta make an Algebra 1 video after this. Those are pretty chill. You can go over. Oh, thanks, Nick. But yeah, that means I'm at 5 duns. I usually wait for 8 duns. And generally, I hope for more duns than just the sophomores, because the sophomores tend to shoot out their duns a little faster. Okay. Chelsea, Rose, Drew, and Jacob. Best rap album of the 2010s. Is that a question? Because in my opinion, it's Good Kid, Mad City, and not real close. I didn't like to Pimp a Butterfly as much, and that's probably second, in my opinion. What would third be, in my opinion? Oh Lord, probably Run the Jewels 2. I think I liked Run the Jewels 2 better than 1. I mean, most people agree with you, I think, that To Pimp a Butterfly is better than... But anyways, I gotta move forward and start doing these. No, not Life of Pablo. Kendrick's 2, pinnacle albums are better than anything Kanye's done, in my opinion. Anyways, what is the acceleration of the object at t equals 4? You just take the derivative. Cool. And plug in 4. So it's a cosine of 4 pi over 3 times pi over 3. What is cosine of 4 pi over 3? It's pi over 3 farther than pi. So it is negative 1/2. So this was negative pi over 6. So that's the acceleration. Then it says consider the two statements. From 3 to 4.5, the velocity of the object is decreasing. So from pi to 1.5 pi, which is what you get when you plug 3 and 4.5 into pi over 3t, is sine decreasing. And from pi to 1.5 pi, heck yes. Yes, it is. Over that interval. The speed starts at 0 and then gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's heck yes. So I said both of these were correct. Drake is the GOAT? Ugh, no, he's not. Drake is unlistenable. Anyways, it depends on the kind of music you like. I tend to like pretty aggressive rap, like Run the Jewels or Danny Brown or that sort of thing, more than I like stuff like Drake. That's just boring. And yes, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is my favorite Kanye album. All right. What is the total distance traveled from 0 to 4? Man, people are distracting me with music questions. This is bad. Oh, gosh darn it. Why did I put the t on the outside? So all you do to find the distance traveled is integrate the absolute value of sine of pi over 3t from 0 to 4. And then if you do this, I don't have my Desmos up. I need my Desmos. 0 to 4. Best saturation from Brockhampton. 1 or 2. The rest were not as good. Which do I like better? My favorite song's off of 1, I think. So, yeah. People are so distracting. All right, what did I get? I got 2.387 for this. For the integral from 0 to 4 of the velocity in an absolute value because it's distance traveled, not displacement. Displacement, I would not do a absolute value, and for distance traveled, I have to. So this was another thing that came up on the homework that a lot of people got wrong. And look, I got the same answer as you, Daikun. Hooray! D says, what is the position of the object at t equals 4? Well, we know at t equals 0, the position is 2 from the original question. So we just do 2 plus the integral from 0 to 4 of not the absolute value, sine of pi over 3t dt. And if we do this, I can very easily fix my Desmos to be this. You should get 3.432 for the position of the object. So you had to use the initial condition to find the position, whereas I didn't need it for distance traveled because that's only a change. Yeah, and that is that. Any questions that aren't wrap questions before I wrap this up? By the way, my favorite Brockhampton song is Junkie. That's the best Brockhampton song. How would we explain for B? Oh, Buckley. Okay, so what I would do is I'd draw the part of the graph, and then I'd say velocity is going down because velocity is not the absolute value of this, and then I draw the absolute value of that part because speed is the absolute value, and I'd be like, speed is going up, something like that. I think that would be good enough. You could also you found the acceleration in the first part of the question, and you could plug in like 4, a number in between 3 and 4.5, into both this equation and the velocity equation, and show that they're the same. So they're both negative. The velocity is negative and the acceleration is negative. And if they're both negative, that means the speed is increasing. So you could prove it with numbers also, not just graphically. But the graphically way is good enough for that one. And yes, you could say the velocity and acceleration have the same sign. That is how you prove speed is increasing or decreasing. If velocity and acceleration have different signs, your speed is decreasing, always. Best rap album of this year so far. I don't know that I've listened to a rap album that has been released this year that I loved. I haven't been listening to a lot of rap. I've been listening to a lot of metal because I've been listening to headphones while playing games. Oh. I mean, my boy Aesop Rock's album was pretty good. So I don't know. Well, rap album I've listened to lately, actually, and a very, very good album from the aughts. Is that what they call them? The 2000? No, that's the zeros. The 2010s was Tyler the Creator's Flower Boy was a really, really good album. I've gotten a lot of replay value out of that. All right. Since chat is almost entirely rap memes, thank you to First Period and a couple others for keeping that going. But yeah, holler. I'll see you tomorrow if you show up there, where I'll be going over that homework. So we'll see how people did, and please do that if you do that. Yeah. You'll be further Buckley-ified next year. Hooray! More Buckley. Do you want to keep your own ink annotations? No. Bye-bye.